Awesome. Cool.
Hey there. So I'm Loza, and I'm here with Ava Johanna, and we're just going to talk all things business and podcasting and rebranding and have a really good time just offering that.
Yes, I'm so excited. Hi, I'm so excited to talk with you.
Great. So you were telling me a bit about how you've just opened up a new image of what you're here to give and your podcast, and just give me a little bit of background about that. What's your inspiration and what is coming up for you?
Yes. So 2 years ago, I went into my 200-hour teacher training, and we were encouraged actually to just journal throughout the entire experience. And so of course I was like, I'm going to take it to the next level and start a blog. So I had started my blog back in 2015, and at first, to be honest, I wanted a community and I wanted to find people to connect with on like Instagram and social media, but it felt very surface level because I saw, as coming from the marketing world, I saw that there was an opportunity to work with brands, to travel for free. And so, I went into it and it was a little surface level, wanting those things. And then over the past 2 years, really the past year specifically, it's just really shed a light on exactly what I want to do, who I am, and how I can use my platform that I've built in order to affect the masses in a way that is authentic and honest. So when I initially started blogging, it was really about yoga and wellness and mindfulness. And that's still what I offer. But what I've found is that not a lot of people are reading blogs anymore. It's something that requires all of your attention, and to hold someone for 600 to 1,000 to 2,000 words is just not, it can happen still, but it's not as realistic as finding something that's a little bit more passive that people can work with. So that's why I'm launching my podcast, The Alchemized Life, in June 2018. And it's really going to take a lot of the different topics that I had talked about in my blogs and incorporate it into an audio format, and meet with a lot of different wellness visionaries and thought leaders across the industry and really bring their expertise into it.
I love that. Yeah, I resonate with what you're saying about offering this kind of passive experience. Mm-hmm. That said, I feel like when I'm listening to a podcast, I feel like I'm immersing so deep into it. Mm-hmm. And for me, I just really like to take that time and just listen to it deeply, because there's so many gems that are coming through podcasts.
Absolutely.
So I'm super excited to hear yours. So what's your vision for the world? Like, why are you doing this? Why do you want to offer this? Like, what's your bigger?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing for me that I've found that it's funny because when we think about different mentors that I worked with and whatnot, it's people that are always like, okay, well, what's the gap that you feel like someone hasn't filled for you, and how can you offer that? And so for me, the thing that I guess pisses me off the most is that there's a lot of people sharing wellness, but doing so in a way that is either a little bit too extreme. So, change all these things in your life like tomorrow. And I just don't think a lot of people resonate with that. I mean, I'm sure that there are some, but for me, it's always been that I need to slowly incorporate things into my life and to have people meet me where I'm at. So the whole goal of everything that I'm doing online, whether it be the podcast or the little micro blogs that I write on Instagram, whatever it might be, is really focused on meeting people where they're at and giving them tactical strategies for wellness that they can truly incorporate and understand into their life, and not feel so overwhelmed like I suck because I'm not doing all of these different things. So it's the biggest thing for me is to guide people, and again, just be honest and authentic with wellness as a whole, and hopefully bring it to as many people as possible, because I know how much it's changed my life, and I just hope to be able to do that for other people.
Yeah, that's amazing. It can definitely be so overwhelming, just starting to learn something because there's so much information out there, and especially online right now. I mean, we can go and just spend 24 hours just streaming YouTube videos about wellness and getting a tidbit of this and a tidbit of that, and how do we really incorporate it, and how do we make it digestible, wellness, pun intended.
Yeah.
So what has, for yourself, what is it that what experience have you had that has led you down this road? Like what kind of healing experience have you?
Yeah. So, I mean, my background is in digital marketing. So, rewind like 3 years ago, I was working 10-hour shifts behind my desk, had no idea like what it meant to manage stress, had no idea like how to ask for help. And it really, really deteriorated my body. I had chronic migraines. I went to the optometrist and my eyesight was going out. I had to get glasses for the first time. And I was just on this downward spiral of wanting to constantly get to that next level in my career, but destroying my body as a result. And so for me, the first part of my path on healing was understanding that a certain paycheck or prestige within a company was not actually what I needed in life. And what I really needed was just understanding and tapping into myself and my needs. And yoga was a really big part of that. So I remember vividly the moment when I was in a yoga class laying in Savasana and just feeling so good and thinking to myself, I don't want to be doing what I'm doing anymore. I want to make people feel this way, and I want people to feel guided into exploring this version of themselves. And so that was kind of the spiral that started it all. And I'm very grateful that I was able to find yoga and, you know, make the time in my crazy schedule to get on my mat.
Yeah. So you said that you're just back from Bali. So did that have something to do with yoga and wellness on your journey?
Yeah, you know, it did. I was hoping to have this whole like eat, pray, love moment out there, and I went with my best friend and my fiance, and I love Bali. It was absolutely amazing, and I toured one or two places while I was there about having a retreat, so that's really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, you know, I did not. I probably took like 3 or 4 yoga classes, and I was out there for 3 weeks. And what I found was I got to really explore other areas of yoga. So meditation and breath work and just mindfulness. So that was really cool because I went out there with the expectation of thinking like, I'm going to be practicing asana every single day and I'm going to be doing handstands left and right. And what it really was more of a gentle, delicate practice of like coming more inward and tapping into these other areas of yoga that I never really tapped into before. So that was really fun for me. Yeah, and Bali's a great place to do that.
It's so magnificent for sure.
Yeah. Have
There's,
you been?
yeah, I have. The
Cool.
architecture there just completely like saturates
Oh,
my
yeah.
aesthetic senses.
Oh,
Just,
absolutely. I
mhm.
was I was already like online looking at different like Bali import furniture import websites. So I was like, babe, we need to get some of this back here in our tiny little 1 bedroom in San Diego. But it'll happen, yeah.
Nice. So that's really interesting, to discover sort of the other sides of yoga and kind of have this multidimensional perspective because it can be so much about the asanas, which are so useful and so effective, and then to just really come into the several limbs of yoga and to really
Mhm.
expand that. So is that something that, like, do you think you'll be incorporating into your practice right now or into
Yeah.
what you're offering people, or
Yeah,
how's that going to reflect on your life now?
absolutely. So I actually already have a breathwork training coming up over the next 2 weeks where I'm going to be meeting with a teacher one-on-one and learning how to incorporate breathwork into my teaching. I already do it with my meditation practice every morning, but learning how to teach other people as well, because I think it's so, so powerful. And when we look at yoga, this huge movement that we've had really since the 70s is when it started. Not necessarily when it started, but when it started getting really big and when it started
Mm-hmm.
getting national recognition. Now everyone and their mother practices yoga for the most part, and which is fantastic. I'm so happy about that. But I think that people are eventually going to start looking for almost like that next yoga high. And that's where I see breath work and meditation coming in. So
Mm-hmm.
already I always start my yoga classes with meditation and then move into the asana. But being able to incorporate breath work as well, I'm just so excited to do.
Yeah, for sure. Mm, I'm super curious about this one thing, and we can totally switch gears if you're
Oh,
not into this. Like every healer that talks about wellness and that teaches those practices, we usually have something that we're currently also working on ourselves with.
mhm.
So every healer also has their journey of healing and transformation. So would you be willing to share what it is that you are actively working on right now, or what is the most challenging for your body and for life and for your life experience right now, and
Oh,
where
absolutely.
you're applying your own medicine?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for me, on like more of a mindfulness side, I would say it's routine and working on actually incorporating meditation every day and not just, and like actually practicing what I preach. Um, because I found since I did it all through Bali every single day, and I woke up at 5 a.m. every single morning when it was still dark out, and I did my breath work, my meditation, and then I started journaling, and it was just like incredible. And so coming back here, I think the biggest struggle is going to be continuing this routine of waking up at 5 a.m. and really giving myself this time before I jump into my day, before I go on my phone and start mindlessly scrolling through Instagram and whatnot. That's going to be the biggest challenge because I'm not going to say I'm terrible at routines because I'm very conscious about the words that I use, but it's definitely been a challenge for me to incorporate a really strong self-care routine into every single day, and that's something that's really important to me. So that's where I'm at on my wellness journey as far as mindfulness. And then on another note, what I've always struggled with is just nutrition, which is kind of a shocker for some people, but I'm pretty terrible at having nutrition routines as well.
So what is it that you are going to do for yourself that maybe someone else could really benefit from hearing? Like how are you going to support yourself in incorporating this kind of mindfulness practice that you want, and any like nutrition regimens that you really stand behind?
Yeah, so I can't think of like the psychological word for it or classification for it. I'm really big on treating yourself and rewarding yourself for hitting different small benchmarks, I would say. So for me, with with any sort of wellness goals that I have, I always like to treat myself to something small, whether it be um, getting my nails done or a massage or buying something new, like a new pair of yoga pants or something like that. If I am able to do something every single day or whatever the goal is that I set in place, I always love to treat myself. Positive reinforcement.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's kind of silly, but it's helped me a lot. And then I think just also remembering that if you aren't able to do it, it's okay. Wherever you're at on your journey is exactly where you're supposed to be. And I don't think that there's ever a need for anybody to get angry with themselves or to feel guilty or shameful, because it's all a part of your journey and you're going to get to where you're supposed to be right on time.
Yeah, shame can be such a big component of the mindfulness, the pop mindfulness movement.
Yeah.
Just as kind of, we need to be a certain way, we should be better, and just this kind of flogging of ourselves in order to fit into a mold and to be somewhere other than now, anywhere other than now,
Yeah.
anywhere other than the self-care and the self-love that really transforms the deeper pain that a lot of humans, almost every human, carries.
Yeah.
And I love what you're saying about celebration, just honoring ourselves, because as soon as we accomplish one goal, there could be a tendency to really just like start stabbing at the next goal without really breathing into the joy and the awareness of like, hey, like you did it, I did it, we did it. And yeah, I love that. I've definitely been doing that for myself, and just stopping, just letting it be okay to like stop on this accomplishment just for an hour a day, just letting that really sit and giving that to myself. So I
Yeah.
love what you're saying that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, gratitude is a magnet for miracles. So the more that you are gracious about the things that you've already accomplished, and the more that you notice that you have accomplished these things, the easier it gets to get to that next level. And the more, whether you believe in the universe, God, the more you allow yourself to be present in your accomplishments and celebrate it and be really present and aware within now, it opens you up to those miracles, and the universe will provide you with everything you need to get to that next level. And I'm a firm believer in that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So when you were mentioning that time when you were in the corporate world, is that right? The corporate
yeah.
world? So did you have a relationship to this kind of more like spiritual sense of self and sense of the universe before you were there? So was there like a childhood component where you felt that and then it kind of like slipped away and then you reclaimed that? I'm just asking because that's just so similar to a lot of us, and I personally feel that. So I'm just wondering if that's something that you resonate with. Like, when did you kind of
Not at all.
realize you were? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, honestly, not at all. I mean, I had a pretty great upbringing up until about 16 or 17 years old. And then my stepfather and my mom split up, and he pretty much left us out on our asses, for lack of a better word. And from 15 or 16, I really had to hustle, and I was working. I went into independent study, so I was doing school from home. I wasn't in high school anymore, so I could work part-time and work 30 plus hours a week. And so I didn't really ever have that upbringing of spirituality, really of religion either. It was always just hustle and make money and get to that next level. I didn't go to a 4-year college until after I had been working in the marketing field for 3.5 years. And so, yeah, it was really just getting into yoga and finding that one teacher that really changed everything for me. Because I had been to a lot of different classes. I had gone to Core Powers. I had gone to those more like corporate style, big conglomerations of yoga, and it didn't resonate with me. But once I found that one teacher that incorporated the mind, body, and spirit, everything shifted. It was like, so.
Yeah, that's incredible. Just how, we never know what someone will remember, and
Yeah.
what that teacher does in class or what it says, and just like that one sentence is the key to unlocking a whole life path for somebody.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. And I mean, it's very cool because her and I are good friends now, and we're planning on putting on events together down here in San Diego. So it's really cool to just see the progression of where it all started and where I'm at now. And I'm just so endlessly grateful, especially being able to have conversations like this and really recollect everything. I'm just so grateful for everything.
Do you think that if you had access to some sort of mindfulness training at that point in your life where you were going through that challenge in your family, do you think that would have supported you at that time?
Gosh, I hope so. Yeah, it's interesting because my mom and I are both huge fans of Gabby Bernstein, and I kind of got her into Gabby Bernstein when The Universe Has Your Back came out, and so we both love her. And so back in 2008, I believe, somewhere along then, one of her friends gave her a Gabby Bernstein meditations album, and this was when we were going through everything family-wise, and she didn't think anything of it, threw it in the closet, never looked at it, never listened to it. And a couple months ago, my mom was cleaning out the closet and pulled out the CD and was like, wow, I was given this Gabby Bernstein CD when I was going through everything, but it wasn't my time to hear it. I wasn't ready to hear it. And so now she listens to it and everything clicks. But so it's just interesting how these things come to us at certain points in our lives when we're ready. Because, I think I'm kind of going on a tangent right here, but I think that a lot of times, especially as healers, we want to share all this information, but people aren't necessarily ready to hear it. So it's really finding that delicate balance between sharing and understanding people's, their limits and what they are ready to hear.
Yeah, that's so incredible, because as much as we can gift someone something or give someone a book, and it really is until that person is ripe for that information. So yeah, finding that balance as healers is a really interesting point, because I think speaking to that ripeness in a person, knowing that it may come to fruition today or soon or years down the road, is probably the best that we can do. Just like trust in that ripeness and give to that place.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a challenging balance, I found, for me at least, given that I am relatively new, I would say. in this whole industry is that I just feel like I have so much information to share. And sometimes I'm like, I'm bursting at the seams with all of this. And I want you to know all of this. And I want you to fall in love with yourself just like I've fallen in love with myself. But some people just aren't ready. And I think that's why I'm like so excited for this podcast too, is because you know what, if they're not ready today, the episode will still be there tomorrow.
Yeah. And it'd be so exciting to have those people that just fall in love with the message and then binge listen to so many
Yes.
podcasts, because as you're saying, those pile up and then those are available for someone.
Yes. Yeah. So that's exciting too. Crossing my fingers.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, it's amazing just the way the universe works and these connections of, leading someone down that pathway. I teach EFT and help people move through emotions in that way. And the way that EFT came to me, I had to be inundated with universal messages to just come on, learn this, get into this. And as soon as I took that for myself, finally, years after really hearing about it, I had so many shifts. And now, facilitating my clients and having so many shifts. And some people are like, I've been hearing about EFT so much and I haven't got into it. And finally I have. So it's like that drip, drip, drip that just finally we're like, okay, sure.
Yeah.
I see now.
That's so cool. Yeah, EFT is fascinating. I actually, when Gabby Bernstein went on her Judgment Detox tour, she was in Los Angeles and my mom and I went and she did EFT with me in front of like the whole crowd of 3,000 people, which was like really intense, but it was so cool because it was this massive group healing together. And it's really powerful.
Yeah, just connecting the body, the way that the somatic deprogramming happens with something that's so kind of minuscule seeming as just tapping. Like, I think that's what kind of why I didn't have this gung-ho kind of trust in that. I was like, well, that just doesn't look intense enough.
Yeah.
Like even yoga and asanas, it's like, okay, I can see the challenge in that. I can see how my body would be challenged and my mental capacity for doing something would be challenged. And I guess it just comes from that culture of really, it's got to look strong and intense and challenging. And I think I've definitely fallen into that in the past. And so many of us, the self-care, the self-love, that's a gentle experience.
Yeah.
Letting ourselves rest, letting ourselves come into love, that's something that can almost seem like something that's not enough. How will that make a difference? It's too small, too gentle, too nice.
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of spaciousness in self-care practices because it is so gentle. And when we're given this space, we kind of just don't know what to do with it because we are so accustomed to go, go, go and work and do this really intense workout. And so when we're given something like, maybe you just need to meditate, maybe just meditating every day, or maybe journaling, when we really start to get to know all of the intricate little details in our mind and learn to love them, it can be really intimidating for people as well, I think.
Definitely, to get to know those intricate details in the mind, for sure. That's part of I'll just skirt around this and I'll just keep going forward. And there's all these kind of rocks in the river that are blocking the flow, and getting to know them and dissolving them and uprooting certain things that are really deep in our system that can be super scary work. I totally have compassion for those parts of myself that aren't ripe enough to go to some depth, and for some people that don't feel like they're ready for it or want to do it or don't have the stamina to keep going and keep going deeper, because the pain can be real, the challenge can be real. And yeah, self-care, like tell me a little bit about your specific self-care practices, like meditation, like what else do you do?
Yeah, so the most important thing for me is just listening to what my body needs. So I've been working from home for the past 2 years now, or almost 2 years. And I am still, over the past few months, I've still been like, okay, well, Monday through Friday, because I'm like Miss Corporate Girl. And what I've found is that I've been getting a little burnt out with that. And I like working on Saturdays too. And so I've just been listening to my body and understanding that, like, hey, you've created this you've created the ability to work from home. So it doesn't mean that you have to have that standard schedule. You don't have to work Monday through Friday from 9 to 5 p.m. You can take Wednesday can be your Saturday. And so listening to my body has been the most elemental part of my self-care practice. And then from there, understanding like what it really needs. So sometimes that looks like, eating really healthy and making sure that I'm eating my breakfast, my lunch, and my dinner and getting my smoothie in and drinking enough water. And sometimes that looks like going out to a cafe during the day, grabbing a nice coffee and journaling and sitting there and just writing. I don't think that there's any right or wrong self-care practice. I think that it really just depends on what your body is craving, as long as it's something that is actually nourishing your body and not just some superficial thing that is only going to fill some void for a small period of time. So for me, when I was younger and when I was still working in at the marketing agency, it was going shopping whenever I got my paycheck, and I was still miserable then. So I don't really go shopping anymore. I don't like buying clothes anymore because I just don't think that that is for me at least, something that is considered self-care. It's definitely something that is more, my self-care practice is something that's more nourishing for my soul and for my mind rather than just for the outside world.
Yeah, I love that. Just getting specific about what self-care is for you and what's effective for your highest soul expression and for your heart expression.
Yeah.
I love to term it like sacred self-care, as in, we're caring for our sacred self.
Yeah, I love that.
And just remembering the sacredness in that and our connection and embodiment of our own soul. So it will look different for everybody. And there will be, of course, similarities. I love what you're saying about just listening to your body and knowing when it's time to move away from our creations and from our work, because I feel like inspired work at home entrepreneurs, we can really put in the hours. Like it can be so consistent. And I've heard so many people talking about burnout, and I've definitely come to the edge of experiencing that myself, because I love my work so much and I love writing, creating content so much that I can really be here all day. And sometimes I just need to say, okay, like I need to go outside. Let's go outside. Let's go breathe. And then of course the synchronicities and the beauty that I experienced in doing that. I mean, the spontaneity of that kind of experience is what feeds me. And then I come back so much more energized.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some days when I'm working straight and then I look at the clock and I'm like, oh, it's 6:30. It's time to stop now. And I'm just really firm with myself about that because I don't want to be working until 8 p.m. at night anymore. I've done that, been there, and it's not what makes me happy. What even, going and taking a shower or a bath and then spending time watching like Showtime or HBO with my fiance, it makes me a lot happier than sitting at my computer and just bending over my desktop and just being miserable. So it's nice to get to this point though, to be aware, because I know that 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I was not feeling this way. And I know a lot of people struggle with that too. So.
Yeah. So you put in a lot of that time to learn that kind of lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think that anybody gets out unscathed knowing it right from the start. I think that it was really interesting. I was reading this book, Light is the New Black by Rebecca Campbell. She wrote Rise, Sister, Rise as well. And she's a beautiful writer, poet. And she spoke about saying like, I do hope that you hit your rock bottom, because when you crack, that's when the light can come in, and that's when you learn, and that's when you can grow. And when I first heard that, I was like, what? Like, no one should hit rock bottom. But then I was like, well, wait, I've hit rock bottom a couple times. And if I hadn't hit rock bottom, then I would not be where I am today. I would not have the knowledge that I have today. And I am so grateful that I was able to hit rock bottom and crack, because now all of this light shines through me and I can witness other people in their pain and hopefully be that hand to hold to get them out of it.
Definitely. So the wound becoming the medicine, and just really having that experiential guidance to know that, and there's so much trust built in that for someone who comes to be your client and to work with you, because you're authentically guiding them from a place of heartfelt knowledge. Yeah.
And it's all about empathy too. I think we're all empathetic beings, and sometimes it just takes putting yourself in someone's shoes or actually being in their shoes or a version of them to really be able to come together and heal, and not always as like a teacher, but as a peer too.
Definitely.
Yeah.
How do you find navigating your empathic nature in a city like San Diego with people? Is there some challenges, or is that an opening for a connection? Like, how do you experience that?
So I live in Ocean Beach, which is kind of like the little bit of hippie town in San Diego, which I'm very grateful for, because all of like the yogis and whatnot are all very empathetic and vulnerable and real and authentic. And so it's been really great being in this area. But, when I did work in the marketing agency and coming back to, connecting with those people still, it's a challenge for sure, knowing how much of myself to protect and how much of myself to give. Because like I said, people are only going to be as willing to listen. And sometimes speaking about these types of things and having it not be understood is more energy taken away from me than speaking about it and having it be understood. So it's definitely a little delicate balance to share this kind of work with people that aren't necessarily ready. And that's why I kind of like to connect with people online and connect with my immediate community. And usually the people that are drawn to this are the ones that are drawn to me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder what it would take to speak the same message in a way that lands for people who aren't in the communities, because I've lived in several conscious communities, and it could be so easy to just reference something and the person knows right away what we're talking about. And recently I've been spending a lot of time in places where people don't have that same common ground for those kind of words or ideas, and I've been challenged to sort of present it with simpler terms or words that I haven't personally used before, that I haven't thought to use. And it's broadened the way that I experience these kind of teachings and lived experiences for myself, and to share them in a way that lands. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just the really...
Yeah, I mean, ultimately what I've been working on lately is to give the people what they want. And when it comes down to it, it's really what they need. So
Yeah.
with basically like with marketing and whatnot, it's always like, what do these people want? So, I could be doing something along the lines of like meditation and mindfulness, but if I'm going to speak at like a corporation or a workplace, it would be stress management and how to exceed in the workplace or get that raise, like that kind of thing. So packaging it in this pretty little bow is something that people want and can resonate with, and then really serving them up a little slice of what they need is what I am working on right now as far as all the projects that I have going on.
I love that.
Yeah.
So do you have some people lined up for the podcast, or have you been doing some interviews? Like, what kind of guests would you want on there?
I do. I am focusing mostly on wellness thought leaders. So I can't disclose anybody yet, but mostly different yoga teachers that are well known, bloggers in the wellness industry, different product line owners or creators and founders of different health brands as well. And I'm really excited. It's going to be great. It's like I said, it's all about tactical wellness and really being able to supply people with the tools that they need in order to thrive in their lives. And yeah, it's just gonna be great. It's called the Alchemized Life, and it's just essentially going to be a soulful guide to giving people tools to empower and enlighten themselves.
What would you say, is there a theme that's coming up for you across talking to these influencers, or kind of like a core heart message that you would say is just, if we were to distill the wellness movement or the wellness advice into, 2 or 3 points or sentences, what would you pull those out to be right now?
So one of the things that I've loved so far with everyone that I've spoken with is that they really want to make wellness approachable. And they don't want it to be this, you can't sit with us vibe of like, kale smoothies and matcha and, vegan recipes. They really want it to be approachable and relatable for people. So that just makes me so excited, because that's really why I am starting the podcast, because I really want people to be able to understand it and get excited about it and want to incorporate it into their lives. So approachability is a big thing. And then a lot of it is driven towards being conscious minded. And, that either looks like the mindfulness, or it looks like sustainability and eco-friendly lifestyle choices, which is another thing that I'm really big on as well. And it's exciting to have a lot more people on the road to wanting to spread that, because it's such a big issue in our world right now. I mean, I was just in Bali out at Nusa Penida Island, and you don't see on Instagram all of the trash on the beach, all of the trash in the ocean. You see these beautiful photos of blue waters, and the moment you get there, it's like, whoa, like this is real. This is a real issue, and we need more people talking about it.
Yeah, I completely and wholeheartedly agree. This kind of approachable, real world, let's get down with what's actually happening. And I think that comes back to us saying that, the mindfulness practices that we sometimes maybe not so happy or ready. I guess my light went out. So happy or ready with approaching the challenging parts of ourselves and the parts that really feel painful. And the trash on the beach is exactly those kind of thought patterns that are the shadow work. So we'll just kind of point the camera right here and focus on the blue water and just omit to mention that there's trash.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mirror. We're all mirrors for each other, whether it's nature or, you and me, we're all mirrors. And a lot of the things that we don't like that we see in other people are the things we don't like in ourselves. And it goes the other way. The things that we love in people are the things that we love in ourselves. So I think that having people that are of influence speaking about these things and, really being unapologetic about them is what is going to make the shift, because so many people are on Instagram or on Facebook or on social media, and they're looking to people like you and me now for what to do. And it holds a lot of weight on it, but it also means that because we are the healers, the light workers, that I think that there's a lot of positive outlook that we will be changing. I think that we're in a consciousness revolution right now, and I'm happy to be at the forefront of it.
I love that. The consciousness revolution for sure. Yeah, and just like coming back to self-care, I feel like the more we give ourselves that time, the more spaciousness we have to really approach the challenging aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're just challenge throughout the day, well, there's not enough bandwidth to really attend and be with something else that's coming into the field or that percolates underneath the entire day. So really, I love this approach that I feel like there's a renaissance of self-care right now. I feel like everywhere I look, people are talking about self-care. Maybe that's just in my bubble.
No.
So there's really a consciousness that's coming around it. And I think there's a lot of, the consciousness revolution that you're mentioning that's a big part of it. The self-care and the allowing ourselves the spaciousness and the love to really attend to everything else that's so real in this world as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible, even over the past 2 years, that the amount of change that I've seen. And especially, I mean, yes, I am definitely in a bubble, but to be around people that really truly care on an external level and an internal level, both inter and interpersonal, it's so empowering to be around that. So for, anybody listening or anybody really, one thing that I would say is go find those people and go be empowered and inspired by what they're doing. And I think when I had first started, sometimes I was like, well, they're doing so much more than me. And that's not the point at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said earlier, you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And that's exactly right for right now.
Yeah. And that part of ourselves that wants to say, well, I may as well not do anything because they're doing more. That's, the self saboteur, but really that's like keeping ourselves safe. Well, I'm not going to do a little bit because someone else is doing a lot, and a lot is better
Yeah.
than a little bit. And, that's just so not true. Someone reminded me of this starfish analogy recently,
Mm.
where this guy is on a beach and all these starfish are beached out of the water, and the sun is blazing, and this guy is going, just tossing them one by one back into the ocean. And someone else comes and says, what are you doing? That's crazy. There's 1,000 of these here. You're not going to make a difference. And the guy bends down, picks up another one, tosses it in the water, and says, I made a difference to that one.
I
So I love that.
love that. Give me chills. I
Yeah.
really like.
So yeah. Mm-hmm.
There was, I think it was like about a year and a half ago, I read this blog, and it was, I don't know if it was written by the sustainability blogger or if it was just about her, but she was at some conference and said that, the research has shown that it doesn't really matter if you like voting with your dollar doesn't matter. The things that what one person does isn't making a difference. And it was infuriating for me to read that online and to see someone of influence tossing that language around and almost diminishing the power, one, of our wallets, and then of, the power of thought. And I was just thinking, organic food in our markets started because one person said, I'm not okay with this food anymore. And it was a single thought that started it all. And so, I do as much as I can to make sure that a single individual knows that they are so powerful, whether it is the vote that they make with their dollar or going to the beach and tossing starfish in the sea. We do matter. Every single action that we take matters. And I think that that's really important to know. And I know that I used to get really down on myself because I was like, well, what am I doing that really matters? But everything matters.
For sure. I love that. Yeah, we are so powerful, and we are so capable of just starting with ourselves, starting with our internal world, so that we don't act from a place of old trauma and triggers. And that's, just saying that one sentence, that encompasses a lifetime journey. That said, we are so incredibly powerful. And at the same time, to, keep it balanced and not think that, well, I'm so high and mighty because I use a reusable cup. So
Yeah.
there's just that fine line where the ego really wants to take precedence, whichever way you're leaning.
Yeah.
And just keeping it clean and keeping it heart-based, and like attending to our intentions, and knowing that we're so important and we're part of a huge universe as well. And that's kind of the incredible balance that can sometimes blow my heart open of, yes, I matter. And
yeah,
the interconnected web of all of these actions and choices and thoughts that really create our reality, and especially our reality.
Yeah, I mean, we're all one with each other and with the earth. We're all here sharing this life experience, and ultimately, your internal world might be a little bit different than mine, but it is in its essence the same. It's the soul, and all of our souls are connected. At least I believe so.
Yeah, I love how you say soul. I just love that shift from, up to a kind of more of a universal rather than, really personalizing it. So it's just that heart shift that, does this thought create more connection for me? Okay, yes, great, let's move forward, so
Yeah.
we can get really like nitpicky with each other and just really stray from the true message of our intention, the true intention of our message, however it may be. And just to keep our feet on the ground and keep on moving and keep making that shift for one another and for ourselves with our practices and our reality. I'll take that as a sign.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I just recently did a workshop on the koshas, which are, we have 5 different koshas, and they are essentially our different layers to self-realization and self-actualization, and really understanding and feeling the soul. And you know, the first layer is our body, and that's the thing that we identify with most. It's also the thing that changes the most, you know, but we all identify with our bodies, and that's kind of the thing that takes away from oneness. But at the core, you know, we are all sharing this human experience, and all we are craving is connection and love, and to be nurtured, whether you're male or female.
Yeah, for
So,
sure.
mhm.
That's a very beautiful, gentle, loving, all-encompassing perspective that we can really get from this, you know, the true yoga, like we were saying in the beginning, the asanas and the approach. And I think one of the 8 limbs of yoga is also like service in the world, and really going out and living the yoga. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yoga is so much more than asana, and I think that it's that light is starting to be shed on a little bit more, and people are starting to realize that. I mean, ultimately, we still have this like huge perpetuation of corporate yoga and Western yoga, which, you know, different brands are really taking advantage of. But at its core, I think that the message of what yoga is will be coming to the surface soon, and already is, and around a lot of different groups. And there's a lot of amazing people out there that are building up this message and making sure that it gets out.
Yeah, for sure. And I imagine you're one of those people.
I would like to think so.
Awesome.
I would like to think so, yeah.
So Ava, it's been so incredible to have this conversation with you. I feel like we could just go on for so much longer about all these depth perspectives that we've touched upon.
No, we really could for days, probably.
Yeah, thank you so much for being a part of this and for shining your light here and for speaking about your message. And I'll make sure to include a link in this to how people can find your work and connect with you more.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Anna. Yeah, it's been such a pleasure, and I'm so happy to connect with you and to be able to share my perspective and also hear your perspective.
Thank you. Awesome.